Good afternoon. Today, September 16th, 2021, uh, my focus for this podcast is on three individuals: Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Mark Milley, self-proclaimed Socialist Democrat Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, of a Congresswoman, the representative of the 14th District in New York, and recall election winner Governor Gavin Newsom. So let's work backwards. Governor Gavin Newsom won the recall. According to what I've seen in the media, he won by 64% landslide over Larry Elder, a Republican candidate, which I find very surprising because it was a small group of individuals that initiated the recall against the governor. And of course, it took up steam. So my assumption, along with quite a few other people, was that Governor Gavin Newsom would probably lose. But then I started reading articles, and I saw how the Biden administration, in particular the president and the vice president, Kamala Debbie Harris, went to California and basically showed their support. And of course, keep in mind that Governor Gavin Newsom comes from money. The Getty dynasty, right? Which is a dynasty that got its monetary gains through oil. So he definitely has money. Now, did money buy this election? Was there voter fraud? I have no idea. There is talk about that, but that seems to be the norm nowadays until proof is actually presented or unveiled to the public. But of course, when you have a media or a lot of media outlets that lean to the left, then those investigations don't seem to pick up traction until after the fact, a few years. But keep in mind that California has one of the highest tax rates on businesses, on its people, has one of the highest homelessness rates nationwide, right? And has the highest per capita individuals that are drug addicted. So one has to ask, how is it that Governor Newsom won the recall when this is the plight of the Californians? Now, I personally don't like California, not because of the people. I don't like the liberal attitude. I think in California, this idea that you can do whatever you want. I mean, that's what a freedom is, obviously is, but I see California bent on hurting itself, really not looking out for one another. So liberal in the sense that they really don't hold the government accountable for what it does. I mean, during the lockdown, that was like one of the biggest problems that a lot of businesses were facing. And obviously, the videos that came out of Nancy Pelosi going to her local hairdresser while everybody was on lockdown and banned from being inside any type of businesses. But you know how it is in politics, do what I say, not do what I do, right? Okay. But it also turns out that Nancy Pelosi is the aunt, not through blood, but through marriage, of Governor Gavin Newsom. So how much influence these political players had in his re-election winning, I have no idea. But I'm pretty sure they had a hand in it. I do know that Nancy Pelosi is grooming him to be the 2024 candidate for the Democrats to run for the seat in the Oval Office, the presidency, right? And he could possibly win because right now he's got some momentum on his side. But again, it's the biggest complaint about his governorship is the way he ran California, the way he's basically bankrupt California and, brought financial ruin to it. And again, I don't understand why Californians would, vote for him to remain as governor, but I don't live there. I understand the politics, and I was really hopeful for Larry Elder, but I saw a trend in the news that said that he was going to win, so he's the winner. So enough said with regard to Gary Newsom. I think it's only appropriate to congratulate him, even though I don't support him and support his handling of the governorship of California, but he won fair and square, right? All right, at least we hope he has. The next person I wanted to talk to is another darling of the media, the self-proclaimed socialist Democrat who back in 2016 beat out 10-term incumbent Crowley. He was possibly the fourth most powerful person in the DNC, and she beat him. Of course, she beat him because of the platform that she ran as a socialist, right? And she also got the support of the Democratic Socialists of America, and her district, of course, voted her in. So, it's very important that we keep those things in mind. Sorry, I just got a message. See, that's why I need to get a producer or something, and a sound person to help me with these podcasts. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. So, Alexandria Ocasio, right? Cortez. She holds a degree in economics and international affairs. She actually interned, I believe, for Ted Kennedy, if I'm getting my story straight. And she's a graduate of Boston University, and as well, her story is a classic. she was a bartender turned politician, and she's also the youngest congresswoman, in the in history. So those are major accomplishments. But please don't confuse me, giving people props as a weakness, because I don't mince my words, and I am very critical of politicians, of anybody, that I have my sights on. So right now I'm just being nice, all right? But the truth is that the thing that disturbs me about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is her ideology. So in a socialist system, government, the idea of wealth distribution, to me, is just another word for theft of wealth. Okay? And if you're part of that political system, please make no mistake, it does not affect you. So, Ocasio-Cortez, saying that she's doing this for her constituents so they can be better off, to me is like creating a welfare state, a welfare nation. Because if somebody works hard, right, and they make a lot of money, okay, they've made monetary gains through their business, as long as they didn't, borrow, I guess, from the government, which some businesses do, but they do have to pay it back. But if their success is a crown jewel in their life, what socialism would do is take that crown jewel and give it to other people who didn't aspire to be great businessmen and women, that didn't aspire to, really do something with their lives. What I see is the distribution of wealth, of giving to people who don't want to work, who don't aspire to do something with their lives. Now, I'm not saying that, in particular in New York, that those people exist. I mean, trust me, I'm a New Yorker, I'm Puerto Rican, and I lived in New York, and I recall, my experiences with racism, where people would, in a stereotypical manner would say, well, you're Hispanic and you're always going to be on welfare, which is not true. I mean, I come from a single parent household, and there were three of us, right? And my mother raised all three of us, and she worked very, very hard for 30 years straight in a factory. So, that is, I think for her, the crowning jewel of her achievement was that she raised, three adults, because that's what we are now. We're adults. We may not be as successful as Ocasio-Cortez or Gavin Newsom, right? But we're alive. And, we are proud of the sacrifices that she made. But that's what it means to try to achieve the American dream, not for somebody to give it to you. We do not live in an entitlement state or an entitlement nation. We need to work for the things that we want for ourselves, if not for the sake of pride, but because we have integrity. And I think that's where Ocasio-Cortez falls into. She has no integrity. I know that in her life, the loss of her dad to cancer may have affected her, judgment, or she was poisoned by the ideology of a leftist professor. I mean, she did take up economics, but also keep in mind that if we were to go in the direction of socialism, it would not affect her. So that hefty salary that she makes through taxpayers, she wouldn't have to distribute that wealth, because she'd be leading the charge, and she would be in that socialistic system, basically directing how everybody else would have to give up their wealth. So it's a contradiction in terms to be a socialist, but not abide by the same rules that you would have to apply to everybody else, to business owners, to businesses. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. And that's where she falls in. And I'll give you an example about what I mean. So this darling that the media promotes as a progressive, a social justice champion, shows up to the Met Gala the other night, right? She shows up to a $30,000 a plate function where the who's who of Hollywood, the elite, power brokers, politicians, they were there. So of course she had to be there, because to me she's a prima donna, spoiled brat. Okay, this is a photo opportunity for her. She wants so much publicity. She wants to legitimize herself in the public eye. And how did she do it? Well, she shows up in a dress and in a white gown that had the words "tax the rich." So she's promoting her self-branded style of socialism at a function in which a lot of people looked at her pretty funny, because a lot of them are rich, and they sure as hell aren't going to give up their wealth, not even for her. So to me, she is someone who takes the opportunity to sell her brand, to sell herself. Because, I mean, she describes herself as a working woman. So do millions of women that work in the United States. What do you think? They just sit at home eating chocolates and bonbons or something? I find it very insulting and very degrading. Because for one, she's a minority just like I am. So I know the difficulties that I had endured growing up as a minority. But thank goodness that the world and the nation was changing, so it didn't last long. And that's just part of growing up, because there is ignorance. People that don't know you will always have an idea of who they think you are based on stereotypes. And I've won a lot of people over simply by standing my ground and sharing the same ideologies about democracy. It's pretty interesting that if you share something that people can relate to, especially democracy, the will to want to get a piece of that American dream, understanding the core principles of freedom, being someone that understands and cares and promotes the values in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's pretty interesting how that changes people's mindset. I mean, we have people that are crossing our southern borders illegally because they want to be here, the land of the free. This is not the land of the socialists. You have people that migrate into this country through the system to be here. But under socialism, sure, we can have all those people come here, but it's going to come at a price. We're going to have to give up some freedoms. And this is what I think Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez does not understand. Socialism does not work. We've seen many failed nations that are socialist, and it doesn't work. Even Bernie Sanders can't get his story straight. But, that's just my thought. So, we need to keep a close eye on her, because she could be the next Nancy Pelosi in the DNC. That puts her in a very powerful position. So she's basically a Democrat, really, because all the Democrats want to do is tax us and take our money so they can grow the government, give themselves raises. But what do they do for their constituents? If you're Nancy Pelosi, you'll get a tour of her house. She'll open up the refrigerator and she'll show you her chocolates. Maybe she'll invite you for a spoon of a chocolate. Right? No, folks. We need politicians that understand the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, that understands the core principles of why this nation exists, what our founding fathers escaped from when they came to the United States, when they came to America, and developed the United States, and developed the laws that protect our freedoms, our rights. Socialism does not do that. And there are some that will argue that you can have a socialist, democratic type of society. And I understand the principles behind that too. And it would take me a while to explain it. But yeah, I understand that. But, when there is some sort of political control, then it doesn't work. I mean, we live in a democracy, and obviously there is political control in a lot of areas. Especially with this coronavirus mandate that we're all now subject to, right? Okay. So, again, what she did at the gala was a photo opportunity. I mean, she wants to be like the elite. She wants to be viewed and worshipped like the elite. Hopefully she's aspiring to probably become an actress as well, right? And get her name on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. But that's what politics and some politicians are like. For them, it's just a means to be loved by the public, worshipped by the public, like there's some sort of gods. But they're not. They're regular people. And the fact is, and I mentioned this all the time, they are public servants. And when a public servant fails to do the job that they were voted into office to do, then we have to move them out. But the problem with Ocasio-Cortez is that, because she's young and her following are a bunch of, Generation Xers, Y, and Zs, a lot of people that have been easily influenced. Okay? You can change their minds and they're just gullible. Don't believe anything. And that's what I have to say about that. By the way, I wanted to personally give props to Nicki Minaj. She's a rap artist who has basically been harassed and criticized for her comment with respect to, telling her fans, hey, research before you get the shot. And I agree with her. Now, I don't listen to her music in particular. I mean, there's probably one song or two that I might like, but I don't follow her. But it's pretty interesting that Nicki Minaj is being criticized. I mean, the media is telling her fans unfollow her because she made a statement. She actually, that's what we need more of. Not Nicki Minaj's, but people who value, their freedom to speak. Free speech is a very valuable tool to a person who is free. And she exercised that, and she's criticized. And she's being demonized because she made a statement that makes a lot of sense, something that I promote. You want to get the vaccine, fine, but do your research. Don't just take it at face value. My last podcast is mind-blowing because it actually addresses those things that the CDC, the media, and the Biden administration isn't telling the public about coronavirus. They've only simplified it, and I think Nicki Minaj realizes that, and that's why she made that statement. But she didn't do it, as a political activist. She was just, relating to her fans. A very innocent comment, and it was blown out of proportion. Anyway, let's move on to General Mark Milley, who is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So apparently, a book came out in which the general told a Mr. Bender, right, that when he was working for then President Donald Trump, that he was talking behind his back, that he was communicating with the Chinese without the authorization of the president. In one particular statement in the book, it says that he had told China that he would let them know if Trump would launch an attack against them, which I find very interesting because under the Trump administration, we never had a war. It's the first in any administration. But why would he do something like that? Why would he warn China if we were going to do something like that? I mean, isn't that treason? I mean, he should at least be subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice for what he's done. But, he is he's a leftist-leaning general, which is pretty interesting because in the military, you're not supposed to take political sides. I mean, that we are at the service of the country, and we are at the service of the president, even in his capacity and the rank that he holds. We are at the service of the government. But my understanding is that he and Nancy Pelosi were very close. So it's a very interesting story from the Wall Street Journal by Michael Bender of what he says was the generals bragging about what he did during the Trump administration. This is supposed to be a trusted military advisor to the president, regardless whether he's a Republican or a Democrat. That type of behavior has to be seen as treasonous. And the other thing that has been stated is that that the president and General Milley had words that were laced with profanity, and President Donald Trump responded to that. He said that's fake news, and he said that if he is the commander-in-chief and he had a general, whether he's a joint chief of staff chairman or not, he would have been fired. And I agree with that. That makes a lot of sense. But I think that that General Milley was working behind the back of then President Trump because of the agenda that the Democrats had. Let's be very clear that the general had criticized President Trump when he went to the church and there was a protest, and he's saying that he then, the president, had ordered General Miley, to suppress that protest. But there's a lot of stories coming out in which that's fake news. Okay, so I don't trust someone, especially who holds the seat of chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, when you're doing things that are underhanded. So ideally, I would hope that there is a investigation, not an internal investigation from the military, but one that is being initiated by our politicians. Because at this point, I'm of the belief that he should resign. He should. Because this is not the first time that General Mark Miley's name has come up with respect to some very interesting things that he's done. I mean, allegedly speaking to the Chinese counterpart, which I understand, yeah, that does take place. But when you're the commander-in-chief, who is above the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the commander-in-chief has the right to know that you're doing this, that this is an activity which is part of your function, and you're not reporting it. Why is that? So that comes into question, okay? And again, look at the fiasco with Afghanistan. All right? I know that General Mark Miley and President Joe Biden they have to take take ownership of that situation, because till this day, folks, we still have hostages being held by the Taliban, but you're not hearing it in the news. We're in negotiations. So we are now negotiating with terrorists. So we're now opening the door to negotiation with other terrorists, endangering the lives of U.S. citizens. The fact is that the execution of the withdrawal out of Afghanistan by the Biden administration is a big fiasco, and General Mark Miley is a part of it. And there's also rumor, right, which I doubt it is, but that the general on the ground in Afghanistan had told the Biden administration about leaving 2,500 troops in place. And that's a sound reason, sound judgment by the general on the ground. But of course, when you have a general and a president that reside in an ivory tower, for General Miley, it's the Pentagon. For President Biden, it's the White House. Then, of course, at your leisure, at your pleasure, will you listen to your generals on the ground? Because they don't have to get their hands dirty. Okay, all they need to do is, reap the rewards of the successes of others. But we all know how that is. Anyway, folks, another thing I wanted to mention was that with regard to Governor Gavin Newsom, something that was said about Larry Elder, right? And I think that Governor Newsom should have put a halt to it, is that Republican Larry Elder was described as the blackface of white supremacy, which I think is a disgusting term, racist. And, where are all the social champions with respect to that? Now, I'm not saying that the governor said that, but I think he could have put a halt to that, because, that's crossing the line. Larry Elder is a pretty decent guy. I've listened to him. I've seen him on televised news. He's a pretty good guy. I think, to me, he's very passionate about this country. And I think he would have made an extraordinary governor of California. As a matter of fact, Larry Elder didn't even agree with President Trump on everything. So that makes him unique. He's not a follower. He's a critical thinker. And I like critical thinkers. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that out to you. And I would ask that, some of you that listen to my podcast, please like them, subscribe. I don't make money. I generally write the information that I'm going to talk about. I produce it. I do the graphics. I do the sound. I do everything by myself. I would love to have a staff, but I don't profit from what I'm doing. I just feel like I'm doing my duty by trying to keep you informed. So whether you believe me or not, at least I'm hoping that I ignite a fire under you to go out there and research the things that I bring to your attention. Because at the end of the day, like I always tell you, wake up, America. Wake up. Good night.